next weekend, a week from right now, we're going to have a big Sangha party, and we're calling it the Gratitude Party. And we've done this before, and basically the spirit is expressing gratitude for the Sangha, the community, for generosity and donations, for continuous practice, all the things, all the various elements that allow Sweetwater to keep going. So we're very excited. We're going to have an open mic talent show, and we're going to have Indian food, and hopefully a beautiful day like today. So we hope you all can make it, and it'll be a really nice coming together Sangha event. And so it's got me kind of thinking about this word gratitude, or this practice of gratitude. And gratitude is a word that shows up a lot in the spiritual, religious, new age, introspective world. And if I'm being honest, I've always had kind of a resistant reaction to it, because there's just so much it feels forced a little bit sometimes. Gratitude affirmations, right? Like I just kind of looked up, as I was investigating this resistance that I have and everything, I just Googled gratitude affirmation. And as you can imagine, I got tons of websites: happyhuman.com, wellbeing.com, modernbuddha.com. So here's a list of 95 gratitude affirmations. Every day is a constant state of learning. Today I am finding ways to be grateful for what I have. Another one: I am more powerful than I know, and I can achieve anything and everything to which I set my heart. For this I am grateful. I am here to fully and completely accept all joy that already has and will in the future transpire in my life. So these are all things that I guess we're supposed to wake up and say to ourselves in the mirror or something. And so as I'm reading through, it just, most of them are very geared towards me getting what I want, right? We saw words like achieve, joy, getting. And there isn't one that mentions being grateful for the shit in my life. It's all about to see how great my life is. Me. And, even, this is new agey affirmations, but then even what we do here when we do counsel, right? We do counsel in the final round, especially after retreat, or what we call sesshin. We'd offer gratitude. And there were so many retreats where it would come to that time, I had just put myself through hell of a week of sitting in pain, both physical and emotional, and I'm here weeding your grounds, and I'm, eating nuts and salad, and I wasn't feeling grateful at all. And so it would come to me, when everyone goes around, they're like, I'm just so grateful for this practice, and I'm so grateful for the center, and I'm so grateful for this, I'm so grateful for you all. And and I'm sure they mean it. I don't mean to accuse them of lying. But I kind of would, right? Because it was the thing to do, to say how grateful I am, right? And the more enlightened you are, then that's how grateful you are. And so I found myself, kind of fabricating a little bit. And I just think that, and at the same time, I very much know the feeling of being stranded on the side of the road, and someone comes and gives you a helping hand, and having that genuine gratitude, that genuine feeling of oh my God, I could not have done this without blah. And so what would it be like to cultivate that authentic gratitude in everything, And so this practice of the affirmations, maybe it's like a fake it till you make it. And so if I wake up every morning and I look at my thing that says, I am grateful for my life, maybe that helps. But I think the real aim is not to just say things or turn gratitude into a kind of concept that we force, right? That's kind of what Zen is all about. Kill the Buddha, forget enlightenment, let go of your practice. All of these ways that we're saying, don't turn these beautiful openings into concepts. Don't turn them into tricks that you try to use to make your life better. So what is gratitude really, in a really authentic way? What do we do? How do we look at gratitude as an authentic expression in our life? And do we have the courage to say, I'm not feeling grateful. I'm feeling really shitty about spending the last week sitting in pain. I'm not grateful for this. And being honest about it. There's something refreshing about that honesty. And I feel like there might be something about honestly knowing when I'm not grateful that will encourage that authentic gratitude to come up. So I just wanted to look at gratitude, in a very intimate way, because that's the only way we can really know it, is if we really dig in. So I thought maybe we would look at gratitude in the context of the three treasures, right? So the three treasures is a Buddhist teaching that goes all the way back to the time of the Buddha. You'll pretty much find it permeating all sects and lineages of Buddhism throughout the world. The three treasures, it's a very basic Buddhist teaching. So the three treasures are Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Okay, and towards the end of koan practice in our lineage, once you finish all the books of koans, then you go through another 100 koans that look at the three treasures and the precepts, the bodhisattva precepts as well. But you focus on these three treasures first, and it goes in really in depth. And there's different angles and different ways and different contexts to look at the three treasures, and it gets a little muddy. But for today, we're going to look at this one perspective of the three treasures called the unified aspect of the three treasures. So you don't have to remember that or worry about that, but just know that this is one specific angle of the three treasures that we study. So Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. In the unified three treasures, the Buddha refers to the fact of emptiness, right? Or maybe what we talk about as the absolute reality, right? Not philosophy, not perspective, reality. The reality that all of this is completely without essence. Yourself, your family, your job, your ancestry. From the Buddha perspective, from the Buddha treasure perspective, completely empty. And the experience of that emptiness is what the Buddha woke up to, and what we try to wake up to as Buddhist practitioners. I wanted to read just a little bit, if I can find it, from the text that we use when we study the three treasures. So the unified Buddha treasure, this is the text that we use is from Yasutani Roshi, who is the Japanese teacher of Maizumi Roshi, who brought our lineage to America. I know there's a lot of information here, but just know major guy. So he describes the Buddha of the unified three treasures as Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, which is Sanskrit, is usually translated as peerless, perfect, universal enlightenment. It does not increase, it is not reduced. It is our fundamental nature, the essential reality of the universe. In a word, it is emptiness. without self-nature. The Heart Sutra that we chant in the mornings opens up with Avalokiteshvara, seeing the emptiness of all the five conditions. Emptiness of everything. All the things you're stressing about, worried about, totally empty. No separation is another way to see this, right? Because the only way to create things is to separate them. So from this perspective of total oneness and no separation, then gratitude is completely irrelevant. There's nothing to be grateful for. The whole definition of gratitude is dependent on another thing. The minute you say, I am grateful for, you are separating something. So in a way, gratitude transgresses our Buddha nature. It transgresses the ultimate fundamental Buddhist teaching. And there's a really cool koan that I wanted to look at to kind of illustrate that. Here it is. So this is case 17 in the Mumon Kan, or the Gateless Gate. There are different translations of these koans, obviously. And a koan is kind of like a little story or a question or a parable that a practitioner sits with to try to discover the spirit of what the story is getting at. So yeah, there's different translations, and in fact the translation that we typically use here is very different, but the point is the same. So case 17, the national teacher Chu called to his attendant 3 times, and 3 times his attendant responded. The teacher said, I was about to say that I was ungrateful to you, but the fact is that you are ungrateful to me. So the teacher calls 3 times, attendant! And the attendant says, yes, what do you want? What's up? And then he's like, never mind, go away. And then again, attendant! And the attendant comes and he's like, yeah, what's going on? What you need? And he's like, never mind, go away. And then it does it again. And every time the attendant shows up, and he doesn't show up like, what? He doesn't show up like, if you call me again, I swear to God. So really, this is, I know it doesn't give you much, but once you kind of start getting in the rhythm of these koans, you can kind of pick things up, right? So a teacher's attendant, or in Japanese what we call the jisha, is typically a very intimate relationship. The jisha gets up early with the teacher and prepares their robes and maybe draws their bath and tells them what their schedule is for the day. It's like a very, very high position in the temple. So we assume that these 2 guys have been practicing together for a long time. They know each other very well. And so really this is a story of intimacy. And I don't want to get too much into this, but I just, what, maybe we don't have someone who calls upon us, but what do we have that's always calling us? For me, sometimes it's depression. And it's like, hey Bobby, Chowa, I'm here. Or maybe it's anxiety. Or maybe it's fear of death. Or maybe it's feeling lonely, right? We all have these things that are constantly calling to us. And I think the approval that we have of this attendant, as we see in the commentaries and as we work on these koans, we kind of see this attendant as like doing well. He's like being a bodhisattva because he shows up super fresh every time. Doesn't matter how many times he's called. Doesn't matter how menial the task is. He's not thinking about being abused. He's not thinking about, oh, I deserve to be paid more. He's not thinking about, when do I become the teacher? He just shows up. Yes. What do you need? And so, yeah, when my depression calls again, am I gonna just say, I'm sick of this and I'm just gonna stay in bed, or am I gonna show up? What is this? Maybe I need to talk to somebody. When a good friend of mine is going through something, and maybe this is a friend who's always going through something, am I gonna be like, oh God, here we go again with Johnny? Or am I gonna show up and be there for Johnny? Let go of all the preconceived notions I have. If I meet a racist, am I just going to write them off as just evil people? Or am I going to show up and call them in and see what I can do to change their perspective? All these different ways that we just, it's hard to show up fresh every time as a bodhisattva, getting rid of all of my conditioning and preconceived notions and ideas of how things should be and how things are, and just come from a place of not knowing. That's what this attendant is doing. So then he says, I was about to say that I was ungrateful to you, but the fact is that you are ungrateful to me. So definitely don't have enough time to really go deep enough into this. But obviously, the feeling that a teacher has for an attendant and the feeling that a student has for a teacher that they've been working with for so long is probably extremely grateful. So why would he say ungrateful? And why would this be, as you know, we classically talk about this koan, it's a story of intimacy, a story of approval. Some people say it's a story of transmission, right? That just showing up for these 3 calls, the teacher sees, wow, this guy is really coming from a place of not knowing, really showing up as a bodhisattva. I now transmit to you my dharma. So how would saying, you're ungrateful to me, be an approval? And, you know, we can talk about it, but obviously seeing that for yourself is the point. But since we're talking about it, I think it's the Buddha of the unified 3 treasures, right? It's really acknowledging this emptiness. You really see that there is nothing to be grateful for. That essentially what you are is one with everything, so there is no such thing as gratitude. And because you see that, because you've done the work to see that, I am eternally grateful to you. That's what I think he's saying. And so this particular translation is done by Aitken Roshi, who's a famous early lay American Zen teacher. He's passed now, but an amazing writer. Read anything by him. I love the way he writes. So he kind of corroborates this. He says, the teacher's ungrateful is an altogether positive term that is best carried to the ultimate, absolute ungrateful. I'd say the most ungrateful person in history is the Buddha, Shakyamuni himself. But these 2 guys give the old founder pretty good competition. So, is that clear? Is that clear that he's kind of saying the same thing as this Buddha treasure? That the ultimate seeing into oneness, seeing into emptiness, is to see no gratitude, because gratitude means separation. I know it's a little wonky, but let's move on to the next treasure. So the second treasure is the Dharma treasure, and from the unified 3 treasure perspective, the Dharma refers to the phenomenal world, right? So where the Buddha treasure is the absolute reality of nothingness, then the Dharma treasure is the reality of our phenomenal life. I am Chowa. You are Kim. This is a yurt. We are in San Diego. Like, this is the world in which we operate, right? And both of these realities, though seemingly opposite, are constantly dancing with each other, and alive. So as Yasutani says, um, there is neither a speck of defilement nor a hair of ego in the Dharma. Causation is the one great law that has never changed throughout time. So the way he speaks of this phenomenal world is causation, right? That's kind of an ancient Buddhist way of talking about this stuff. That the law of cause and effect, karma, makes up this Dharma treasure. So from this perspective, of course there's gratitude. There's different people. There's the causation of the Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree, which got passed down for generations and generations, thousands of years, that allowed us to open up Sweetwater Zen Center and be sitting in a yurt together right now. All the different causes and effects that led to us right now. And from that perspective, we can be grateful for everything. Because everything, the butterfly flapping its wings 5,000 years ago, is completely responsible for me being here right now. And so from that perspective, there is the possibility of genuine gratitude for every speck of dust, every little thing. And I pulled up a Dogen quote. Dogen Zenji is one of the major masters in our lineage and an incredible poet and writer. We talk about him all the time. Let me find this quote. He talks about gratitude in a nice way. So he says, he lived in the 13th century, by the way. Continuous practice, day after day, is the most appropriate way of expressing gratitude. This means that you practice continuously without wasting a single day of your life, without using it for your own sake. Your life is a fortunate outcome of the continuous practice of the past. You should express your gratitude immediately. He's such a drama queen. So this continuous practice is the most appropriate way of expressing gratitude. I love that. And in a way, this makes me think of the attendant in the koan we just talked about, right? That continuous practice of always showing up, always ready, always from a place of not knowing, ready to be there. That is gratitude, not reciting some kind of mantra. Really showing up, continuous practice. And so, Dogen back in the 13th century was living in a monastery in Japan, and back then there was hundreds, thousands of monks, and it was just kind of a different culture. So continuous practice literally meant like sitting all the time for the rest of your life. But not all of us now can do that. It's just not our karma. It's not what's going on in our life. So what is continuous practice for you? What is showing up constantly for you? What is not wasting a single day of your life or using it for your own sake, right? For me, it'll definitely be Zazen in a very heavy way, but for you, maybe it's just seeing your therapist on a consistent basis. Maybe it's, just being intentional. You don't have to be a Zen person to have continuous practice. But are you waking up every day to be happy and get things? Or are you waking up every day to explore the nature of your existence? That to me is continuous practice. Why am I here? Who am I? How am I living my life? What's the best way? What am I holding on to? Who have I helped recently? Who am I allowing to help me? All of these, existential or deep or intimate personal questions, that to me is continuous practice. And waking up and being like, how do I get my way today? How do I prove that I'm right? How does my family get ahead? That's wasting your life. That's wasting a day. Using it for your own sake. So, yeah, when the guy or the person stops on the side of the road to help me with my tire or my car issue, um, sure, maybe giving them a hug or giving them a 20 or a gift card to my restaurant or whatever it is, that's cool. That's nice. But taking that into my everyday life, when do I stop on the side of the road? How am I going to, teach myself more about my car? Right? These kind of practices that we can take into our life. This is gratitude, I think. That's real, genuine gratitude. So that's the Dharma treasure, right? So we have the Buddha treasure, the perspective of emptiness, where gratitude isn't even relevant. And then we have the Dharma treasure, the world of phenomenon and causation, karma, where gratitude for everything, genuine gratitude for everything, even my depression, even my shitty friend, even the passing of my parent, all things. Gratitude for everything is possible. So then the Sangha treasure, from this perspective, the unified three treasure perspective, is the harmonious interdependence of the first two. Right? So we think of them as opposites, nothingness and manyness. But this Sangha treasure, this third treasure, is the practice of seeing for ourselves that they are in fact not differentiated, that they are not even two sides of the same coin. They are the coin, and they are flipping in the air constantly in our lives. And so the way Yasutani puts it, what is called the Sangha treasure refers to the harmony or fusion of the Buddha and Dharma treasures. Because fundamental nature is empty, there is a rising of causation. Right? He didn't say even though nature is empty, there is. He said because nature, our fundamental nature is empty, there is a rising of karma or causation. Therefore, the arising of causation, well, that's an annoying sentence. I think that's it. I think that states it pretty clearly. So what is that? What is that Sangha treasure? That is kind of going back to the beginning, what I was saying, that genuine gratitude. How do I experience, how do I invite genuine gratitude from that place of emptiness into my life? And there's another good koan from the Blue Cliff record that I wanted to talk about real quick, that I think highlights this Sangha treasure pretty well. I can't find it. But basically, one monk says to the other monk, how does Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion, which they are typically depicted in old art as having 1,000 hands and 1,000 eyes so that they can see and help everyone in the universe. Compassion, that's kind of the mythical figure of Avalokiteshvara. So how does this Bodhisattva of compassion use their 1,000 hands and eyes? And the other monk says, it is like a man groping for his pillow in the middle of the night. So then it goes on, but I think that's the important part. So we all know that feeling, right? You're basically asleep. You're not aware of what you're doing. You're not like, I am now groping for my pillow. You just do it. It's what's needed. It's what your body needs in the moment to fall asleep. But there's no me doing it. You just do it. And I think that is the perfect summation of this Sangha treasure, right? It captures the Buddha element because you're not there. There's no me doing it. But it also captures the Dharma element, which is that it is getting done. There is a pillow. There is a movement that will make you more comfortable. But it's that selflessness in doing. It's that idealessness, right? That to me, to be grateful in that way, right? When the person comes over and helps me on the side of the road, that's my gratitude. I'm not even thinking about it. I'm not making it happen. I'm not thinking about how Buddha talked about gratitude and gratitude is great. I'm just fully grateful. Literally, I could not do this without you. And it's that the effort, that's what it is. The effort that I'm putting into that gratitude is the same effort that you put in when you're half asleep and you're just groping for your pillow. It's none. Effortless. So, yeah, this practice of the Sangha treasure is cultivating that emptiness so that this genuine, effortless gratitude can be present in my life as much as possible. So, with that, I am genuinely grateful that y'all are here and gave me the opportunity to speak, and grateful for your practice, and grateful for your sign-ups for the open mic talent show that I know you're all going to jump to do after this. And with that, thank you very much. We'll open it up for questions or comments.